warm welcome to the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And today's show is the story of 65, record-breaking Boyle on Chelsea's first League Cup triumph, which captures the incredible life journey of a former professional football player who played in the 1960s and 1970s for Chelsea Football Club, Brighton and Hove Albion, Leyton Orient, and of course the American dream at Tampa Bay Rowdies. He was born in Motherwell and signed for Chelsea as a 15-year-old, whilst, believe it or not, on holiday in London. He was one of the lesser-known members of the Chelsea team, but nevertheless an important member of the successful Chelsea side of the period, usually playing in the midfield ball-winning role. An absolute gentleman with a softly spoken Scottish brogue. And this podcast reflects on his time playing for Chelsea, some of the great players and managers of that era, his relationship with the fans, and some of the huge domestic and European matches he played in for Chelsea. Yes, folks, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the show John Boyle. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you very much, Lord Russell. I'm very welcome to be here. Very glad.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's all my pleasure. And when the show gets released tomorrow, the Chelsea fans are going to be absolutely ecstatic, I'm sure. We've got a great show ahead of us. So, John, as always, let's start from the beginning. You were born in Motherwell and signed for London club Chelsea as a 15-year-old whilst on holiday in the city. So please tell us how this all came about. On holiday. Amazing.
It's not. It wasn't actually on holiday. I obviously I lived in Scotland and I played football. I played for my school team, which was a very good school. We actually won the Scottish schools under 14, and I played for an under 16 team as well, who won the Scottish Amateur Cup. And my uncle lived in Battersea, my mum's stepbrother, and my mum was writing to him, and she wrote and said that I was a good footballer.
Well, she wasn't wrong.
So he said. Oh, he said, I'm related to Tommy Docherty's wife through a cousin or something. He said, he lived in Battersea. He said, so I'll call up Chelsea. So he called up Chelsea and said, when do you play trials? And they said, in June. Well, yeah, this was about April, May. So in June, my brother came down with me. We got on to the train and came to London and went to Chelsea. Arrived at Stamford Bridge and said, when do you have trials? And they said, on next Saturday. So I said, okay. They said, come back. So I went back on the Saturday. They took me over to Hendon to play in a trial. And I think it was a public trial because they weren't that very good, the guys I was playing with. And after the game, they said, yeah, we want you to stay.
Very
so
good.
I got in touch with my parents and said, I'm coming back to London in 2 weeks' time. At 15, and they kind of said, oh, great, so I'm really pleased. So I went back home, and 2 weeks later, I got a letter from Tommy Docherty with a train ticket, and my mum and dad took me to Motherwell Station at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I caught the train to London. I was 15 and a half years old, and they put me on this train to London. I was on my own. So I went onto the train and obviously it was first class. I sat in this first class and I had sort of these big posh seats and I sat down at the restaurant car and suddenly there was 4 knives, 3 forks, 2 spoons, a serviette. I'd never been there the rest of my life. I don't think. I was 15 years old. And then they brought the menu down and I looked and I thought, I don't have a clue. I could read. I wasn't I was quite a good scholar, but the food, I wasn't a very good eater. My mum used to give me boiled eggs and butter and bread and pudding and stuff. And they brought down the first thing. I looked soup. I thought, that'll do, soup. So I put the soup down in front of me and it was asparagus. And to this day, when I smell asparagus soup or asparagus, I'm sitting on the train again. I'm back there and I thought, I said, sorry, I can't. And then he brought roast beef and onions and something else and like probably a roast dinner. And I said, no, I can't have that either. And he looked at me and I looked at the menu and it said apple pie, custard or ice cream. So I said, can I have all 3? So he said, yeah, no problem. So I ended up eating 3 apple pie, custard and ice creams.
Wonderful.
About an hour outside of London and I got a cheese sandwich. He ended up saying, can I sign for the bill? And I said, yeah, no problem. Lunch bill. Signed that. Got off the train. And at the end of the platform, there was the crew-headed Mr. Doherty there.
Wonderful. What a sight that must have been.
Absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah.
he then took care of me for the next couple of years. I mean, I had a suitcase that was probably two pairs of underpants, a couple of pairs of socks, and a couple of t-shirts that my mum
Yes.
had gone to the co-op to get out, sort of, to get me to London. And
Brilliant.
Tommy Doherty brought me around a case full of t-shirts and stuff, clothes, and then just looked after me all the time. He was like sort of,
Fantastic. And looked
and that
after you.
was
He
it. And
did
I
as
went
well,
to
didn't he,
digs,
John?
and I went into the digs where Barry Bridges and Bobby Tamlin had lived the years
Oh, well.
before. So the first couple of months I was there, all I heard about was Barry Bridges and Bobby Tambling.
Yeah. And I'm
And
sure after
then,
you left there, all the new recruits, all they would have heard about was Johnny Boyle. So they probably went on like that too. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? And he did look after you, didn't he? And of course, moving forward a little bit, a couple of years or so, you were handed your senior debut by fellow Scot, as you mentioned, and Chelsea manager Tommy Docherty in the days before substitutes. And we must remember that. No substitutes in those days. There was no cameo in a low pressure game to ease you in either. It was straight into the starting lineup for the first leg of the 1965 League Cup semi-final away at Aston Villa. And this is just an incredible story. So firstly, John, tell us about your debut in a major cup semi-final and how it all came about.
well, I have to tell you about the week leading up to that. It's quite interesting. On the Saturday, I played in a reserve game against Fulham.
Mm,
On the Sunday, it was my mum and dad's wedding anniversary in Scotland. And I also had to play a Scottish youth trial. It was the only time I ever got anywhere near Scotland in football. I played in the Scottish youth trial. So I played at Fulham. Then I flew to London, to Scotland the next day or that day. Went to my mum and dad's wedding anniversary. On the Monday, I played in the Scottish youth trial. Flew back on the Tuesday, and Tommy Duck said, "You're playing at Aston Villa on the Wednesday." I played
mm.
at Aston Villa on the Wednesday, and luck was have it. I after 20 minutes, I tackled a gentleman called Barry Stobart, and they carried him off.
Oh dear.
And the crowd then booed me for the rest of the game. There's
As
one
they
funny
would.
incident I read in a newspaper article I kept, and it said I thought the tackles by Boyle and Harris were unnecessarily hard. And that's great getting a mention with Chopper straight away.
Oh, crikey, you were lined up with Chopper Harris immediately. I mean, that's just brilliant, isn't it? What an
So
accolade. It's got to be, that's
yeah,
an accolade.
yeah. So that was it. And then there was about we were winning 2-0. It went to 2-2. There was about 20 minutes to go, and I got the ball about 40 yards out and took a shot. No, 20 yards out, and and just took a shot, and it flew into the top of the net. And Peter Benetti said, Terry Venables was the first one up to me,
Yes,
up and grabbed me by the shirt and said, "I'm so pleased for you, John." And that's
yes.
the thing I remember all about what happened. And that
I
was
mean,
it. And
what an introduction, though, to senior professional football.
it
John, at
was,
the very top it was too. After Aston Villa had equalised, as you just said, for the second time in the game, and the 82nd minute, you, the debutant, John Boyle, teenager, went up and grabbed the winner, giving Chelsea, the lead, which would ultimately send Chelsea to the final after a 1-1 draw in the second leg. I mean, what a debut, John. That really was. And Terry Venables, I mean, what a great legend he was to come up to you straight away and say, "I'm pleased for you, John." That must have been felt fantastic too.
well, they were kind of my mentors in a way, Terry
Mm,
Venables and George Graham. I always tell the story about Terry and George. They took me
yes.
over to Tottenham Court Road to Denmark Street in the music business. And I went into an office and they took me in, I can't remember the guy's name, the office. Dick James, I think his name was, who
Yes.
ran the show. And I was in this with Terry and George, and suddenly they said to me, "Oh, there's a little office boy walking about with ginger hair and funny boots on." And they said, "Oh, John," they said, "this is John Boyle, this is Reg Dwight."
Right. Yeah, Elton John.
I
Yes, absolutely.
just said,
What
"Hello, oh,
incredible.
you're right." And that was it. That was when he was 18, he was 18 at the time as well.
Yes.
And and then George took me on my first holiday to Mallorca as well. It
Mm.
was like going on holiday with a James Bond.
That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you become a legend in your first game pretty much, and the Chelsea fans absolutely adored you ever since. And of course, you went on from there. And of course, that goal, it was the first of 12 goals you would have scored in 266 games for Chelsea. Yes, folks, 266 games. What a player. One of the best in your memory, I would think, John, wasn't it? That's that first goal. It's got to go down as one of the
Well,
best.
it kind of was, but after that game on the Wednesday, on the Thursday we were on our way home, and we were playing Leeds, who were top of the league, and we were second up on the Saturday.
Mm,
And Tommy Docherty said to me, "Oh, by the way, you're coming to Leeds to play." And Leeds had their team, there was a couple of my heroes like Bobby Collins, Billy
yeah.
Bremner, and all the tough guys. And we went up there and we actually drew 2-2. And it was
Mm,
one of the best games I have ever enjoyed. It was blood and thunder. It was a bit icy, and it was tackling and getting on with it. And I remember coming off the pitch and thinking that if I could play there, at Leeds, I could play anywhere.
play anywhere, exactly. Was
Um,
it a typical, I think you sort of mentioned that, a typical Chelsea, Leeds United, blood and guts, full on, tackles going in all over the place, thuggery match, John? Was it up there at Elland Road?
Absolutely, yeah, great. But
Brilliant.
I got some great advice on the train up. I was going up on the
Mm.
train, I was sitting with Eddie McCready, and he said to me, John, he said, I don't know how high you tackle, son. He said, but up at Leeds, he said, we tackle 6 inches higher. The best advice I'd had all day.
Absolutely, yes. Because everybody remembers that 1970s FA Cup final replay with at Old Trafford. Well, of course, Chelsea won, the David Webb winner, the last minute pretty much. And that was a thunderous match. So this was the Chelsea Leeds stuff was going on long before that.
Oh,
Was it?
absolutely. This they started
Yeah.
with 1965. It actually started, I think, the game before I'd played up there. I think
Mm,
Eddie McCready had tackled Johnny Giles. They'd started then. They'd come up with a bad reputation anyway, um,
yes.
uh, from the second division, and everybody was expecting. Everybody knew what they were,
Mm.
so, but they
And that's
didn't
an
suffer
incredible
any,
story, really.
didn't take
And of
any
course,
prisoners.
Chelsea, yeah, they didn't. And of course, Chelsea beat them. Was it in the semi-finals in '67 as well, didn't they, to go through? So another
That was the day
thunderous
that
semi-final.
that was the day that Gary Sprake kicked me in the face.
Oh no!
Yeah, really did kick me. I've got
Oh,
some
that's
great pictures
incredible.
of it somewhere, but yeah, he came up,
Yeah.
kicked me in the face, like boot up, kicked me straight in the face.
Wow.
And but a couple of years, 2 years later, we were having a drink with Gary. Ozzy and I
Mm,
were Peter Osgood and I were having a drink with him.
mm.
And Ozzy said to me, he said, Sprakey, you took a right liberty with my little mate that time. He said, so when you get a clump, he said, you know what it's for. And Sprakey said, he looked at me, Gary, and he said, John, he said, honestly, he said, I didn't mean to kick you in the face. He said, I meant to kick you in the chest.
What a great response as well.
I said,
He meant
that's
to
okay.
kick you
I said,
anyway.
that's okay, Gary. We went to Wembley and you went back to Dirty Leeds.
Yeah, exactly. What a fantastic. And that was brilliant, isn't it? Great stories. I mean, I did hear stories going back that actually Chelsea and Leeds players, I don't think this was true actually, hated each other on the pitch, which was clear, but actually off the pitch, they were quite sociable. Is that true? Or, I mean,
Yeah, fair. I
obviously,
think it was
yeah,
true about most
yeah.
footballers. I mean, a really good friend of mine, Brian O'Neill from Burnley, when he
Mm.
played for Burnley, and then he makes I when he played at Burnley, we kicked 10 bells out of each other. We went on tour with Southampton, Southampton on the same tour as we were, and I met Brian, and we became best buddies.
Brilliant. Well, that's good,
Lovely,
isn't it?
lovely
That's
man. I still try and talk to him.
yeah, that's nice. That's a nice story. So you kick hell out of each other for 90 minutes and then
Yeah, that's
best
the
buddies
game.
thereafter. That's the way it
Yeah.
should be. Yeah, that's football. And of course, the two-legged final against Leicester City. I mean, what do you remember of being part of Chelsea's first ever major domestic cup final victory? I mean, there must be some moments in both legs you remember well. I mean, a 3-2 home win, followed by 0-0 at Filbert Street. In the second leg, winning to 3-2 on aggregate. That's some fight, some final, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great, but I mean, I was just going along enjoying myself because then
Mm,
we after the Leeds game, I played in a youth team game on the Wednesday night after the Leeds game
yeah.
against Charlton. I played in the youth team. Then that Saturday after that, I played against West Ham in the cup.
Mm.
So I'd made my debut in the League Cup and the FA Cup all in the space of 10 days.
And of course, in both games, Leicester were the holders of the League Cup. Chelsea claimed it. And of course, West Ham were the holders of the FA Cup when Chelsea knocked them out as well, didn't
That's
they?
right, yeah. And
Yeah, so your
so that was
first.
my again the West Ham game. And then
Yeah,
in between, then before within the next couple of weeks, we'd played against the German national team
mm,
as well. So I was just going along playing football, thinking it was just all great fun. And to
yes,
remember, not I don't remember an awful lot about what was happening. I just remember that this was great playing football and traveling around the world.
absolutely. A great. And we'll get right into your career as we go through this show. I mean, the 1965 Football League Cup final, the fifth to be staged since the competition's inception. As I've just said, Leicester City were the holders, so it's a fabulous win. And they were aiming to become the first side to retain the trophy, while Chelsea was seeking to become the first London side to win it. So another first for Chelsea, a very proud moment, John. I mean, Chelsea Football Club had many firsts over the years, and this was another first, the first London club to win the League Cup. Very proud
Yeah,
moment indeed.
it was something that people didn't really consider to be great. But one of the greatest things that ever came out of the League Cup
Mm,
was that we qualified for Europe.
exactly.
And that then opened up an incredible doorway for me as a young footballer because I ended up playing in the
Mm,
San Siro in the new
yeah.
sort of against Milan and in Germany. We ended up I mean that was in the following season and
Yes. And that
great
was another
games in
first for
Europe.
Chelsea, wasn't it? Probably in terms of European matches.
Yeah, it was one of the first. We ended up, I think, losing to Barcelona in the end
Mm,
in a third game. But that was after playing about 10 games in a couple of weeks. We were just,
yes.
at the end of the season, we were just basically shattered.
Yeah,
Uh,
you would have been because the seasons
but
were
it was
long in those days, weren't they?
just an amazing season for me, like
Oh,
sort of going through it.
I mean, let's just talk. Yeah, the Chelsea team back then. I mean, just look at this. In the League Cup final, first leg at Stamford Bridge was, and there are some incredible players here. Peter Benetti, obviously. Marvin Hinton, Ronnie Harris, Chopper, Alan Young, yourself, John, Bert Murray, George Graham. I mean, what a fantastic player. Eddie McCready, Terry Venables, and Bobby Tamblyn. I mean, the second leg at Filbert Street had a couple of changes with my old friend going back, was John Mortimer, number 5, number 6, stepping in at centre half. Frank Upton taking a number 6 shirt, with Barry Bridges claiming the number 9 shirt. I mean, this a masterclass or masterstroke by Tommy Docherty? Listen,
It
that's
kind
some
of
strong
was
players
because
there.
what he learned from when we actually went abroad and played.
Yeah,
Um, we learned to sort of defend properly.
yes,
One of the things that he said he and Marvin Hinton was probably one of the best sweepers
yes.
in Europe at the time. And so that was just the way it went. We said we'll just go and play and we'll just play and just not let them score.
Absolutely. And John Mortimer, of course, used to be the first name on the team sheet, I was told. I
John
mean, he was a
Boyle,
solid player, wasn't he?
when I made my debut, I got ready beside John. We got changed,
Yes,
and he was standing, and I was sitting on the chair, and I looked at him, and he's like, and I looked beside, and he took his clothes off. His legs looked like sort of up to my head.
yes,
He turned
yeah,
around and he said, John, by the way, he said, when we're playing, he said, I might shout and scream at you during the game. And I looked and he said, but don't worry, he said, because I want you to shout and scream at me as well.
yeah. That's the man he
And
was,
and,
wasn't it?
and that to me is one of the great things that I learned is communication. And I think that's one of the
Mm,
problems that I think Chelsea have at the moment is
yes, definitely.
communication between each other. Because to me, on a football field, you should be talking or listening for
Yes,
90 minutes, talking to people, either encouraging them or not. People say to me, oh,
quite agree.
Ozzy was your best mate. What did I said? Well, I'd shout at Ozzy. I said I was run all day for Ozzy, but he had to put it in the net, and if he didn't put it in the net, I would like have a rap with him.
Yeah, absolutely, quite right. That's what teams are about, aren't they?
That to me is what it was
You
about.
work, all 11 of you on the pitch, you work together. I mean, the Chelsea centre halves, Frank Upton and John Mortimer, neither of whom had played in the first leg, as I said, performed admirably in the second leg and were instrumental in preventing Leicester City from creating chances. I mean, they were two solid centre halves, weren't they, those two? What a pairing. They really were.
Oh,
I mean, I can remember,
absolutely. I mean, they probably they got them up from the second division, I think.
yes.
They were probably played as many games as anybody over the couple of years before I got in.
Yeah. I mean, a
Um,
little bit about John Mortimer as well. I mean, I also knew him back in the day, along with John's brother, Charlie Mortimer, of course, both professional football players in their time and teachers. And John Mortimer taught, I think, at Farnborough Grammar School. So he was very good at a very eloquent speaker, very good teacher. So when you say that he shouts at you, you can shout at him back and a great communicator. Absolutely. He was a fantastic communicator, was John. Um, but you also had a nickname for John, I believe, as well, didn't you, John? I mean, please tell us more.
you mean Sir Percy?
Yes, Sir Percy, that's it. So we've got to know a little bit about this Sir Percy because that's a great
I don't really know.
nickname.
I just came in and that's what they were calling him. I don't really know the story.
Oh, no,
He
no
just kind
background
of
to it.
he kind of looked like the sort of the others were all jacked lads and kind of I think
Yeah.
sort of a bit like that. And John was, as you say, a school teacher with that
Mm.
different sort of outlook and behavior. So he didn't sort
Yeah.
of silly, I suppose, like the rest of us. He was more of a, as you say, a school teacher.
Yeah, he was an intelligent man along with his brother Charlie because they both ended up as school teachers, by the way. Charlie ended up as a sports master at my school. And I do remember John coming to my school when he got sacked as Portsmouth manager to teach me technical drawing. And as soon as he knew I was a Chelsea fan and I was into him with all the questions as a young lad, he said, yeah, oh, great. So both John and Charlie taught me how to play football their way, studs down, the shins and all the usual tactics. That was fantastic. I got very well with John. He was a lovely man.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I
Very,
great respect for John. Like,
oh, huge respect. And I say, as you said, a great communicator, a great teacher, and he knew exactly how to treat people brilliantly. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, you played in Chelsea's FA Cup final loss to Tottenham Hotspur. Oh no, in 1967. So tell us more about this defeat and the effect it had on the team. After all, losing to Spurs is never great for Chelsea, is it?
well, it isn't nowadays. I don't know about back then. Spurs were quite a good team.
They
I
were.
remember going to watch them in 19. I actually watched them in 1962 when I first came to London.
Mm.
They played Glasgow Rangers in the Cup Winners Cup final, semi-final, I think. And I went over to see them. Tommy Dawes said, go over and watch them. And I'd just been to London in a few months. And being a Celtic supporter when I was young, I was over there with some Spurs fans and I was cheering when Spurs scored. And they said, why is the Scotsman cheering? I said,
Mm.
because I'm a Celtic supporter. But
And quite
yeah, I
rightly
thought
so.
Spurs were a great team then. But we just didn't turn up on that day. I don't know why. Maybe it was
It
just
does
too much
happen that
was
way,
on
doesn't
for
it?
them. And we just didn't really perform.
Yeah. I mean, they won the double, didn't they, in '61? So they're like falling out from that league, that great side of '61. And so I think they were a good side in '67. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, oh
But
yeah. But we,
we
we
did
we just, as I say, we just didn't turn up against them.
no,
I don't know whether it's just the first cup final or FA Cup final was. Yeah, it's one of the,
yeah,
not depressing parts. It was nice to play in a cup final, but
of
to
course it
lose.
is. And that was Chelsea's second FA Cup final defeat as well, John, because they lost in the 30s to Sheffield United 3-0, going back
Yeah,
in the day.
well, that was one of the great things when, and even though I didn't play, when they won the cup in 70, I was
Mm.
absolutely over the moon for all my colleagues and stuff like that, even though I wasn't playing. I was just so delighted for Chelsea and for the fans because I had quite a few friends and they'd never won the FA Cup. And I remember meeting two of my friends after the Leeds semi-final and they were crying. And I said, why are you crying? They said, because we're going to Wembley. We've never been there before.
Mm.
But obviously, then as I say, when 1970 came
Yes.
and when I see my mate Ozzy's header, I still get goosebumps
Yeah, I can imagine. I can
with the
imagine.
goal,
That's
with the
the
goal.
diving header, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, the
In that
diving header
replay,
was,
the equaliser.
yeah,
Absolutely outstanding diving header.
oh, absolutely
Really
just, yeah, it's like
incredible.
watching it, just the actual bit before it with Charlie Cook, and I always say
Yeah.
Charlie Cook, any professional golfer would have been proud of the chip that he did.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there was tackles going in that replay at Old Trafford. You just couldn't believe. I forget the Chelsea player. He did like a drop kick on somebody in the penalty area, literally just a scissor kick. Leeds United player went down, obviously hit him, and it was just like crikey. And the referee was just letting things go on, wasn't he? It was brilliant.
Well,
Game
yeah,
to watch.
one of the things that where I was sitting, I was sitting sort of in a right back position where
Mm,
Dave Sexton had changed David Webb and Ronnie Harris, and he put Ronnie Harris at right back,
yeah.
Mark Eddie Gray. And I remember the ball that was played to Eddie, and I thought, oh, this is it. And suddenly Chopper just came in and just. And I was sitting with Stuart Houston, and I said, "That's him finished," and
Yeah.
um, and that was it. And Eddie just the job
Well,
was
Eddie
done.
Gray caused Chelsea havoc, didn't he, in the first match, 2-2 at Wembley.
Oh,
He was allowed to play, wasn't he? And
oh,
that just
just
caused so many problems. But so they had to shut Eddie Gray down, which they did in the semi-final. Sorry, the
yeah.
final replay.
That was it. That was the way the game was played then.
Yeah, it was indeed. I
Mm.
mean, what a match the replay was, John, too. Probably, as we kind of aligned to, the most violent match in football history, probably, to be fair. I mean, please tell us some more particular, some of the off ball moments. Is there some off ball moments you remember that whilst watching the game that were interesting? You don't
No, it was
capture on the
not hardly
TV?
ever any off ball things. It was just all
Mm,
chat, but it was actually just the physical and the way the game was going. Everybody was just in there. It was just one of those incredible 90 minutes. It was
yes.
you couldn't
Yeah,
stop
and it
and
was.
look. Um,
And of course, that Wembley pitch in 1970 final, probably the worst Wembley pitch in history. I mean, I believe they held the Horse of the Year show at Wembley the week before or something. I mean, so a pitch of sand, beach style football, John. I mean, that was just incredible, wasn't it? I've never seen a Wembley pitch like it.
no, that was just such a shame that they did. Well, I don't know what it's a Horse of the Year show or something, and
Mm,
something. I know that something happened, but yeah, it was just such a shame. But when you think about it, it made up for the we wouldn't might not have had the second game at Old Trafford if we hadn't have had the
mm.
first game.
That's true
So,
indeed. That's true indeed. And that goes down in absolute history. Old Trafford 2-1.
mm.
Fantastic. But Chelsea winning the FA Cup in 1970 did mean that they qualified for the 1971 European Cup Winners' Cup. And a magical competition this turned out to be for Chelsea, John, too, didn't it? Semi-final victory over Manchester City over two legs, with a dreadful error perpetrated by Ronnie Healey shortly before half-time in the second leg at Main Road, when he carelessly dropped an in-swinging free kick from Keith Weller. I mean, what player Keith Weller was, for the goal that virtually sealed Chelsea's final ticket. I mean, please tell us more about those semi-finals, John, against Manchester City. Incredible.
Yeah, again, because of being sort of an English team, it was we kind of knew who they
Mm,
were and what they were. Yeah, we were ready for them, and Derek Smithers came up sort of trumps. He scored, I think, a couple of goals,
mm,
and yeah, we thought, well, we actually when we played in Europe, we kind of our aim was to if you only lost 2-0 away from home, you could get that back. You should get
you
that
could.
back. You shouldn't go through. And we thought that when we go to Manchester, we'll yeah, we'll get through. We didn't have any qualms about it. Um,
Mm.
I just had a little thing with a little Scotsman, Willie Donachie. I fell on the ground near
Oh.
him and he stood on me. There was a little bit of a scuffle, but um, there wasn't too much of that with them.
No, so Man City Chelsea matches weren't particularly very thunderous, were they? Kind of
No,
played
no,
at
no. It was
good
just
pace, good level.
I just thought I was another Scotsman, so I expected that.
Yeah, yeah. Scotsman on a Scotsman, you were going to get something back, weren't you,
Yeah,
there for
that was
sure? But it's a fantastic thing, wasn't it, to come out of the main road having qualified for the European Cup Winners' Cup final. What a tremendous feeling that must have felt. Um, the coach home, I take it, not the train.
sorry.
You have the coach home, the coach back to, to,
No,
to
the
London.
train. I think they got the
Hey, you
train.
caught the train.
Yeah, yeah. To know that you're in again. eh, I don't know that we were expecting anything different. We thought that we were going to go
Mm,
and do that. I think because we'd actually done that a few years before when we were in the Fairs Cup.
yes.
played through and we got to Barcelona.
Yes.
And that to me was one of them games were really exciting.
Fantastic.
Playing sort
Very
of
much so.
Milan, Munich, Barcelona. By the time you're then finished with them and you're coming up again, I said I'm a bit of an old hand.
And you are, yeah, you're an experienced player at this stage, a
In
European old head. You've done it all before. I mean, on the train back, did you travel back with the supporters? Because that often happens
We
sometimes,
used
doesn't
to
it?
do, yeah, quite a bit. The
Yeah.
supporters used to be on the on the train. It was yeah, it was all yeah. I'm sure we used to sit and have a drink with them, stuff like that.
I think you probably did. It must be some
Yeah,
great camaraderie going on.
yeah, it's always been. I've always, I mean, I must admit, Chelsea supporters, I've always got on with them
Mm.
because what I try to explain to people is that I got the DNA. I came when I was 15, so
Yes.
by the time I was
Yeah.
17, I was inducted in Chelsea, and everything then was should be about Chelsea
Yeah. True blue.
and
Absolutely. Or as the Chelsea supporters would say, a proper Chelsea is the
well
wording, isn't
that's
it, these
yeah
days?
that's well I prefer one now they've got me. I haven't got it with me. It's somewhere away.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
called John Boyle, one of our own. So
That's it. I've heard that one going around too. Yeah. One of
that's
our
one of my
own.
favorites. My favorite flag and
Yeah.
words.
And you were indeed. You still are. You're still one of Chelsea's
Well,
own. You're still there with that.
that's one of the even better things that's happened to
Mm.
me, to be honest, over the last 5 years. And I mean, when I'd left, and I suppose people remembered me, but I never was never known anything about. And how sort of the Facebook thing came about was interesting. As I say,
Mm.
I came to a memorial flag day. I got on the train. I seen it on Facebook, and I got on the train, got the bus down, got the train to Victoria, and got the bus down Fulham Road, and went into Chelsea ground. And I knew one man there. I knew one guy, Kevin Webb. And been speaking to him, and I went into the Chelsea, and there was just probably 100 or a couple of hundred spectators, and obviously nobody knew me because it was like sort of all a long time before. But within 10 minutes, so obviously the word got around, and since then I have made so many friends
Oh,
in
lovely.
Chelsea. Absolutely one. I've talked to them nearly every day. I keep in touch with them.
Yeah.
It's one of the delights of my life, to be honest. And I met some wonderful people
Yeah. And you will do.
through that.
Yeah. You're very, as I said earlier on in the show, you're very highly respected. So let's hold on. Let's take a look back. Um, for me, one of the greatest moments in Chelsea's history at the time, and see how Chelsea toppled Real Madrid. I mean, Real Madrid, one of the greatest sides in Europe, remember, toppling Real Madrid in the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup to secure Chelsea's first ever European trophy back in 1971. A game that was played over two matches a game. The first was a 1-1 draw, so another final replay with Chelsea victorious in the replay, beating Real Madrid 2-1. I mean, you played in both games, John, so please elaborate more on the biggest match in Chelsea's history in 1971, and not forgetting what I can see as the heartbreaking moment in the first match when Zocco for Real Madrid equalised for Real Madrid in the 90th minute. That must have been heartbreaking to take the final to a replay. The second was virtually won, John. The game was virtually won.
Well, I take my Real Madrid story back to 1961.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Whenever Real Madrid played, they played at Hampden Park in Scotland, and I was
Mm.
about 14, and they beat Eintracht Frankfurt 7-3 at Hampden Park in the European Cup final. And after the game, I was only we ran out all my mates. We ran it onto the
Yes.
grass where we lived, and we were then Real Madrid. I
Yeah.
think I was so, and I'll tell so to this day, and I can still the Real Madrid forward line that day was Canario, Del Sol, Di Stefano, Puskas, and Gento.
Wow, that is some name dropping to throw in there. That's one hell of a forward line, isn't it?
Can you imagine? So
Crikey.
my mate was Puskas because he had a good left foot. I think I
Yep.
was Del Sol, and but so you go forward sort of 10 years afterwards. I'm number two at Chelsea, and number 11 is Gento.
Oh, wow. I mean,
And so both, so I'm looking and thinking, is this true? And
you have to
but the
pinch
funny
yourself
story I
almost, don't
love
you?
telling about that is Alan Hudson tells the story quite good.
Mm.
What happened is, you say, he played in the first game and he came on as sub. Kento came on as sub in the second game. And when he came on, he forgot he'd left his watch on. So Alan Hudson takes the story up and he said, what happened was somebody played the ball out to Gento and he got the ball. He said, remember, he's 39. He said, he got the ball and he ran down the wing. He said, as he's running down the wing, he remembered his watch. So he stopped, took his watch off, gave it to the trainer. He said, carried on running. He said, Johnny Boyle was still chasing him and hadn't caught him up.
That sounds like a Huddy story as well.
And he
That's
said he
typical
was,
Alan, isn't it?
and he was 39 at the time.
Yeah, oh, funny, funny. That's Huddy for you, isn't it? Yeah, I can imagine him telling that story
Oh,
too.
of course, yeah.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
brilliant. So, what about how did you feel when that 90th minute goal equaliser went in the first game? That must have been a real wrench. And then walking into the second replay and coming off winning 2-1. Amazing.
Yeah, well, again, it's football. You have to play to the full 90
You
minutes, and
do.
sometimes we've scored in the 90th minute sometime, and that's
Yeah.
it. And but we were still in the finals, so and we already, what I think happened to us is that we had already competed with them, and we thought, oh, they're not
Mm.
that great. We must be as good as them. So we,
Of course. Yeah.
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 So the second
Confidence.
second leg, we were up for that as well.
And John Dempsey scoring the first goal, of course.
The
Amazing
first
goal.
goal, that's the best goal I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's a
No,
cracker, wasn't
I'll
it?
tell you, the reason I say that is that John tells the story as well, that
Mm.
he spoke to the groundsman of the stadium. And the groundsman said to him, do you know that's the best goal I've ever seen at the stadium?
Wow.
And John said to him, how many games have you seen? He said, one.
It's another fantastic jovial football story, isn't it? Incredible. But it was a good goal, wasn't it, John
Oh,
Dempsey's goal?
it
I
was
mean, is it?
amazing.
Yeah,
Just incredible. Like, lovely, lovely man, John Dempsey was just a
yeah, definitely.
complete superstar. Sadly, passed away.
He
But
did. And it
we
was
were,
sad too. And of course, also Ozzy himself, Mr.
oh
Oscar
yeah, he
scoring the
did.
second goal, put Chelsea 2-0 up. You thought, wow, this is going well.
Well, again, Ozzy's another story. I was his roommate for since we were
Oh, you must have some great stories of Oscar, Johnny, Peter Oscar, surely. Some fantastic stories.
yes, we had a few laughs.
I can imagine. Any particular stories in particular, John? You can tell us that's a
Uh,
typical Peter Osgood style story.
Maybe I'll think of one in a minute if I can.
No, that's okay. I know he
Oh
fancies
no,
himself as
one night I once we went to um I think it was Trinidad or something, and we arrived in Trinidad, and I said to him, "Oh, I'm going out to lunch." He said, "What do you mean you're going to lunch? How can you be going to lunch? You just arrived here." I said, "I'm meeting a young lady." I said, "She's doing a photo shoot here." He said, "Behave yourself." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "Who are you? Who is it?" I said, "Fiona Richmond."
oh, nice, very nice.
So and
Remember her back in the day, in the 70s?
yes,
She was a gorgeous looking lady, wasn't she, Fiona
lovely
Richmond?
lady, nice lady to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
It was
absolutely. The stories I've heard about Peter Osgood as well was he fancied himself as a bit of a boxer, and of course Dave Sexton come from a boxing family and was a boxer. Hence the clash between Dave Sexton and
a bit
Peter
of a
Osgood.
boxer. You're kidding
They
me.
would literally, square
No,
up,
no,
wouldn't they?
I had to drag him away to be honest from that situation. What happened
Oh,
then?
good for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's other stories. I mean, a funny story I remember was that Dave stopped his all drinking on an airplane. Said I
Yes.
had to stop the drinking on airplanes because too many people
He was
drink.
teetotal, wasn't he, Dave Sexton?
Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But Bruce, that's fair enough. What he
It
did,
is, yeah.
you
No
know, shouldn't
disrespect
be.
there.
I mean, I absolutely. But this day we went on the plane going away, Ozzy and I. So we got the stewardess and we said to her, "Can you get a bottle of champagne, put it in a jug, and top it up with orange juice?" And she said, "Yeah, okay." So came back and we were sitting in the thing, having a great time. Um, and she started and we said to her, "Can we get another one?" And she said, "Yeah, okay." So she walked back down. picks up another, and starts to walk back down the aisle. And she passes Dave Sexton, and he said, "Who's that for?" And she went, "Them two over there." So that was another registered letter. You get a
Yes.
registered letter when you get fined. You have to have a registered letter.
Mm.
So that was, I think it was 2 weeks' wages.
Oh wow, just for that bottle.
And yeah, but the funny thing about that as well was that I I wasn't playing in one of the following games. I think it was fairly soon, and I came on as sub, and I scored the equaliser,
Mm.
and that meant that in those days you used to get £4 for a win from the football league, £4 for a win, £2 for a draw, and £1 for a thing. I scored an equaliser, and the headline is John Boyle earns £2.
Oh, the classic headlines in those days, weren't they? Really, they
Oh,
just
absolutely. Oh, one. I've got a load of them. I've got a load of scrapbooks. I've got some of
yeah.
them. I've
I'm sure
got
you have
all
memorabilia
these.
and
Here's
stuff.
my. I don't know if I've got my own scrapbooks here, but oh, here they are. These are my
Yeah, let's have a
own.
look.
These are my own scrapbooks. These are just sort of well, I don't know if you can see it
Yeah,
there. There's some my. I don't know. If I can.
yeah. There we go. We can
They're all
sort of
sort
pick
of
that up.
that's up at.
Yeah, all black and white, lovely photographs,
Yeah,
so lovely
they're just
pictures.
all. As I say, I've got about five of those. What happened was that because the newspapers in London. My
Yeah.
my parents didn't see any of it, they didn't. So what I did, I used to cut out all the newspapers. Well, that was
Hmm.
before I go to the Aston Villa game. When I scored the winner, I the next morning when I got home, I went to my digs and I went straight down to the newsagents and I bought every newspaper in the shop and I sent them home to my parents. And then when they passed away, I went home. I used to go home because they had them, and I had couple of suitcases full of memorabilia, all my
Mm.
pictures and stuff, and that's how I ended up came here. And a friend of mine made them into a couple of scrapbooks, and I think I've got four or five scrapbooks of all the.
Oh, it's great though, isn't it? It's great because you've got all that to read. Of course, your granddaughter, your lovely granddaughter there, she's got all that to go through as well. The history of
Yeah,
her
it'd be great. It's
granddad.
one of the great things that I'll leave for the kids and
Yes, of
my
course.
another granddaughter and grandson, but they get bored with it. They look and say, "No, thanks."
Well, they've had it all their lives, I suppose. But
Yes, yes. I'm just indoors. I'm just fav.
yeah, well, that's how the relationship should be, shouldn't they? Really,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
you're the hero outside. You're the hero down at Stamford Bridge, the Fulham
yeah.
Road, the
That's right.
King's
Yeah,
Road.
yeah.
That's what you are, John. And you are, as I said earlier on, something of an unsung hero too, and yet a vital player for the successful Kings of the King's Road Chelsea side of the 1960s and 1970s. And will be remembered by many supporters as a tenacious ball-winning midfielder. I mean, how do you remember your association with the Chelsea supporters back in the day? You kind of briefly mentioned something earlier on, but you had a real closeness to them, didn't you? They really had a
Yeah,
tremendous
I
friendship.
partly because the way I played, I was
Yeah.
in a team full of stars, and I was what I've always said I was a labourer. I would work
Yes.
hard for them all, and it's quite amazing. And the great thing I always say about football is that when you're in a squad of players, nobody thinks that you're not good enough. Everybody has
Mm.
respect for everybody else, whether you're a goal scorer, whether you're a goalkeeper, whether you're a defender, whether you're a different kind of midfield player. I mean, I say I was lucky. Some people say to me, "Oh, what position did you play?" And I say
Mm.
two, three, four, six, seven, 8, 10, 11. I didn't play in five, and I played in five as a sub. And
Yes.
Ozzy wouldn't let me wear number nine, he said, because my legs
That's
weren't
his
long enough.
shirt. Your legs weren't long enough, yeah. And you never played number one either, did you? You never put
I
a
never
goalkeeper
played number
shirt on.
one, obviously. That's
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, last night, John, when we were in London together, down Fulham Road, we met up with some other great Chelsea stars. Steve Wicks, who was on my show just 2 weeks ago. Tommy Langley, what a great player he was, of course, and Kenny Swain. Lovely fellas, slightly after your time, but they still carried that Chelsea or Chelsea supporters view, didn't they? Proper Chelsea, proper players. Lovely, lovely characters, lovely, lovely men. Great ballers, weren't they, these guys? And so
Yeah.
just after your time there, fantastic.
Well, Tom, when I'm at Chelsea now with the hospitality, I go
Mm,
around with Tom, and we have
yes,
this. When I first spoke to him, I didn't really know Tom that well, but he then said to me, he said, "Oh, he said I used to come and cheer you on."
yeah.
So we
That's what
laughed,
it's
and
going
I
to come
said,
to.
"Oh," I said, "So," he said, "You were my hero." I said, "It's great, Tom." I said, "I was your hero, now you're my carer."
Yeah, that's a great response again. Oh, the camaraderie
He
in
takes me
football.
around everywhere I go, and he sent me a
Yeah,
message last night. He lost me last night, and sent me a message this morning. I'm really sorry. He said I went to somewhere Dennis Wise thing executive or somewhere. He said missed you. I said don't worry, Tom. You'll see me next week.
yeah, exactly.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, they're all lovely lads. Yeah, I mean,
They are
yeah,
all
I don't.
gentlemen.
Everybody. I think everybody I've been involved with at Chelsea. I'd love to sit down and have a beer with them. You know,
Mm.
anybody. If they were, I don't think I've got any. One of my best friends is Alan Hudson. I love chatting to.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, great, great, great
Love chatting
character.
to Alan.
Well, Alan's been on this show, of course, as well a couple of years ago, and I like Alan. I like, we talk every now and again. I do like Alan Hudson because he's always got great stories. You've mentioned some of them earlier on, of course, and he's a real character. And I think
Oh
that
yeah, you
that
know, he has this thing again.
goes.
People say he doesn't like Chelsea, and obviously he had problems when he left Chelsea, and that's it. But and he's got a thing for it, but he still likes Chelsea. He still comes to watch them, and
Of course, he
yeah.
does. His ex partners are Maureen Hudson. She still goes. I know Maureen quite well as well. We're friends on Facebook too. But I know from Alan that he didn't want to leave Chelsea. Neither did Peter Osgood. They had to go to Stoke City and Southampton to pay for that old New East stand.
Well,
So they were really in trouble.
that's yeah, that's the whole sort of like thing about it
Mm,
always is that's what happened, and in life things like that happen, and you've got
they
to
do.
accept them and get on with life.
So if all the Chelsea fans out there that will listen to this show, please remember Alan Hudson did not want to leave Chelsea. He did not want to go,
No,
but he had to.
and they talk about him being sort of having a go at Chelsea. He's actually just having a go at the people
Yes.
when he left, and the reason he left is a different reason. You know, that was to do with a certain like whether he asked for a transfer or whether he didn't, and
Yeah.
he's got a good grievance, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. No, I've got a lot of time for Alan. He's a lovely fella. Fantastic. Was a fantastic footballer too, wasn't he? Brilliant.
Oh,
But to have someone like Tommy Langley turn around and say to you, John, that you were his hero whilst he was going to watch Chelsea back in the day. I mean, that's nice, isn't it? Because he was a prolific goal scorer up front for Chelsea, wasn't he, Tommy Langley?
oh,
He could
wonderful,
bang them
wonderful
in.
lad and a wonderful footballer. Yeah, and
Oh,
yeah, got a
I
lot of
did. Say,
time for Tom.
I did say to him last night. I said, Tommy, I said, you did have a couple of years at Aldershot as well, didn't you? Remember that? He said, oh yeah, I was at Aldershot for 2 years. I do remember his time at Aldershot Football Club before they went out of business. But yeah, so he did his time down there as well at the recreation centre. Fantastic. What a lovely little club they are.
There's a lot of
Incredible.
good, really good youngsters when I was coming through. Funny, I
Mm,
spoke to Ray Wilkins' son last night,
yeah, I
and
did.
I was talking to him, and I said about his dad. I mean, he was a lovely, lovely man, and he
Mm,
said some wonderful things about me. Like he said that on an interview, he said that we have a lot to thank that old Scottish guy for.
yes.
I said, and the
Oh, the
old one,
camaraderie.
when he said because he said when we played with him, he said he on the field he told us all what to do, where to go. He kept talking to us all the time, and I thought that was a natural thing to do. To me,
Yes,
when you're on the field, should be, of course, you should talking to everybody
of course
and
you
telling
should.
them and talking to them and keeping on going.
Absolutely. And I had a great conversation with Ross Wilkins last night as well. We spoke for quite a while actually. And he's agreed to come on the show, John.
Yeah,
So we're looking at April. I said, let's do a show, not just about yourself, but more about your great father, your dad Ray Wilkins. We'll do a tribute show to your dad Ray. We could also talk about George or Graham Graham Wilkins as well, because he was known as George, wasn't he, at the club? So we're going to do a tribute show about Ray Wilkins. I think that's going to be fabulous. What a show that will be
absolutely.
in
Yeah,
April.
it's,
So really looking forward to that. So I mean, I've being part and knowing a lot of the Chelsea players and staff down at Stamford Bridge. I do, obviously, as you do too, John. It's just an incredible club, isn't it? Really deep. The warmth in that club runs through the veins, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely, yeah. You can I can sense it all the time. When I go in
Mm,
there, and I've seen people who work there as well. And
yes,
in the offices and different stuff, they've got this
definitely.
feeling for the club. And
Yeah. But like all good things, they come to an end, and you spent 2 months on loan at Brighton and Hove Albion before leaving Chelsea in December 1973 to sign for a lovely club, Leyton Orient. I like Leyton Orient, they're a beautiful club. How does this come about? How did it feel to leave Chelsea? Because you were Chelsea through and through, weren't you? But good things
yeah,
do come to
yeah.
an end.
The only thing I said, the only thing about I went on loan to Brighton was that I met Brian Clough there.
Oh, brilliant!
I was there on loan to Brighton, and just as Brian Clough and Peter Taylor taken over,
Yes.
and I just used to train at Chelsea and go and play for Brighton wherever they were playing. I think I played about 6 or 8 games.
Mm,
Um, but when Brian Clough took over, we were told to be at a
yeah.
hotel at Brighton at 5 o'clock, and we had to stay the night there, which is fair enough. So we arrived at 5 o'clock, and we were sitting in a hotel, and it was like the Last Supper. There was a big table, and all the players were sitting around the table and waiting on on the Messiah coming. And they walked in, the two of them, Brian Clough and Peter Taylor,
Mm,
and they had the waiter with them. And there was, we're all sitting down. I was sitting up, and just opposite me. Lucky, glad they didn't come to me. They said to a guy, can't remember who it was, opposite him. Brian Clough said to him, "What do you what do you want to drink with your dinner?" And he said, "Oh, orange juice." He said, "No." He said, "What do you normally drink when you're out?" And he said, "Oh," he said, "a pint of lager." And Brian Clough said, "Son," he said, "don't ever drink a pint of lager." He said, "because people think you're a drinker." He looked at the waiter and he said, "Can you bring him 2 half pints of lager, please?"
And that's the man, wasn't it? He was comical like that. He was actually a wonderful character, Brian Clough,
Oh,
wasn't he?
great. And then we played a game, and a little winger played really well. And as he came in, Cloughy said to him, "Sit down there." And everybody kind of looked. And he said, "Bend over." And the boy bent over, and Cloughy leaned over and pulled his shirt off and took his shirt off and said, "If you play like that next week," he said, "I'll even take your boots off."
He came out with some classics. But,
Oh,
you could fear him, but love him at the same time, couldn't you, to be honest? He did look after his players, didn't he? He really did.
well, that's the thing. If you get something with your players and they know that you're with them, and okay, if you're strict, but you know the rules, and
Exactly.
you know where you stand with them.
I do remember Brian Clough bringing his Brighton side to Aldershot going back in the 70s, and I was in the East Bank, I think, of the Aldershot and supporting Aldershot that particular afternoon, and watching Brian Clough and Peter Taylor come out of his Brighton side. It was just wonderful because he was so his head up. He was so proud what he walked out with, Brian Clough and Peter Taylor. It's wonderful to see.
Oh,
Gentlemen,
great character for football. Just a
oh,
shame he
without
didn't.
doubt.
Just a shame he didn't take over England. To be honest, I always.
Yeah, that was a great shame, wasn't it? He should have been England manager. He probably would have won a World Cup or a European Championship if he'd have been
Well, they were
running the
giving
side.
something sharp about, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, without doubt. I mean, what was it like at Brisbane Road playing for the O's, John? You were there until 1975, making some 18 appearances, almost seeing out the end of your playing career, but not quite. So tell us about Leyton Orient first. We'll come on to the last part of your career later. What was it like at
No,
Leyton
it was a
Orient?
kind of a bit of a. It was kind of a bit of a shock. Joe, Dave Sexton knew George Petchey. They were
Yes.
friends, and they both come from Brighton. Orient were sort of up top of the league, second or third, and I had just got married and I sort of moved into a new house. So when they wanted me to go, they threw Orient at me. I couldn't really say,
Mm.
yeah, no, I wasn't. If they wanted me, I was going to go, and I went, but it was a bit of a culture shock, to be honest. I went from a Rolls Royce to a. A lot
A
of the people
mini.
there were nice. Well, not the people, the players and staff. The chairman was a nasty man, to be honest.
Mm.
And he cheated me. So
Really.
yeah,
I mean,
and
it's so far from different now, aren't they? Leighton Orient now are a lovely little club. They run
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
and
yeah. Well, they were there, and as I say, I don't know whether it was just the man himself, that the lads were all nice, and that's so.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I was there for a few months, and then I got an offer to go to Florida. For,
You did indeed. You then joined the North American Soccer League
Soccer League.
expansion
Yes,
side at the time,
that was
Tampa Bay Rowdies, in February 1975, just ahead of their indoor campaign. This is an interesting story, though, John, isn't it? You captained Tampa Bay, sorry, to a runner-up finish in the 1975 NASL indoor tournament in March that year, and in August that same year to victory in the Soccer Bowl 75. I mean, that's some achievement at the end of your career, isn't it? Last knocks in playing days. Have you done
Yes,
that?
it was great. It was a great. They were great lads there. They all came from different parts of the world, and I think the reason I was captain, apparently the same thing happens. The first day when I went training, I was shouting at all the players and telling them what to do different things, and I think Eddie Fermani just said, "Oh, he's captain. He's going to be captain." So,
Yeah,
um,
naturally.
and yeah, and we had an absolutely fantastic time in Florida. It was great, and in fact, it's 50 years ago this year,
Yes.
and I think there's going to be a kind of reunion later on the year.
So my light just went out then.
There's going to be a
Yeah.
reunion thing, but they were all lovely. I'm still keeping in touch with them as well. Those
Yes.
Scottish lads, and we, yeah, as I say, we took it all on board, and we got in with the American thing. They asked us to sing the American national anthem.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So what they did was around the stadium, there was a wall all around the stadium. So and the
Yes.
crowd were all behind this one part of it, and they wrote the words of the national anthem on the wall. So we went over there and stood, and there was a microphone in front of us, and they played the national anthem. We were reading the words and we were singing the words, and the crowd went just absolutely bananas, you know.
They would do.
And then
Completely.
when we
Completely.
got to the final, we at the end of the game, we I introduced them to the crowd too. We got the microphone and I introduced them to we belong to Tampa, dear old Tampa town.
Wow.
There's nothing the matter with Tampa when it's going round and round.
Yeah, no, exactly. What a
And
great
only
song
a
that is.
communal working chap, as anyone here can see. When I get a
Mm.
couple of drinks on a Saturday, Tampa belongs to me.
Wonderful. You remember it too, John. That's
Oh,
fantastic, isn't it?
oh, yeah, yeah. It's just from the Glasgow one. I belong
Yes.
to Glasgow, and I belong to Tampa. Was
Yes. It was a similar sort of song. My light keeps going out. It's really bizarre. Let me turn it down a bit. There we go. Yeah, so that's great. It's great stuff, John, that really, isn't it? So you retired in 1975 and later had a brief spell coaching the Rowdies in 77, 1977, after Eddie Fermani, I think his name was, abruptly resigned from the post. I mean, how was life as a coach, John? How did you take to
well,
that?
what actually happened? I captained the team in '75, and
Mm,
so we won obviously the thing. And there was only one player didn't go back the next season.
right. You, the man
For what
himself.
reason? I still don't know. I
No.
still never knew the reason or what had happened, and I was the only one that didn't go back, and so
Yeah.
and they didn't win the North American Soccer League, and a lot of the lads said, yeah, the reason we didn't win is because
It was
he wasn't
John
in.
Boyle wasn't there.
So
That's
then
why.
Eddie Fermani walked out on them and went to the New York
Yes.
Cosmos, one of the big rivals up in
Yes.
New York with all the money and where all the players were. We actually, as I say, I took over coaching. Um, it was probably something I should have stuck with, but my family
Mm,
situation wasn't there, and
yes.
I was out in America and they were here, and I I decided that I probably wouldn't stay. Um,
Mm.
it was a shame, but my
But those
family
decisions made,
was
aren't they, in
more
football?
important than
Yes.
and that. And
Tough decision
yeah,
to make. But good experience nonetheless. I mean, what is next in the world of John Boyle? I know you do the hospitality at Chelsea Football Club now, which you should be doing, and that's brilliant. So what else are you looking at, or is it just going to be
no, I'm
hospitality
just
at
going
Chelsea?
to relax. My lovely granddaughter's just got a job as
Yep,
a maths school teacher. All my
brilliant.
work on all our multiplication tables when she was growing up.
Yes.
And she did that. So she's here, and she's sadly my wife passed away 2 months ago,
Ah, sorry to hear
and
that. Yeah.
she's now back here with me. So and we're just going to go through and
Yeah, go
enjoy
through
doing
life
what we're
together.
doing,
Absolutely right. Sounds like a plan.
and hope that Chelsea move up the league.
Absolutely. Let's see. Well, they're still in fourth place now. Good win last
Yeah,
night,
great. Yeah, good.
4-0
Yeah.
against Southampton. So let's see how they can. This light keeps going out for some reason. I don't know why. I have to get a new one. Um, that's life, isn't it? But yeah, so let's hope Chelsea got the league again. It's fantastic. And it's been fantastic talking to you as well here as well, John. So the wonderful thing. And as always, on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, we could talk forever, John. We could. An incredible life story about your life as a hugely talented and successful professional football player, winning honours. We all dream about winning. As individuals, we all dream to be where you were, John. There's no doubt about that. It's fantastic. It's been a huge pleasure, as always. And as always, the pleasure is all mine. And of course, the show's audience when this podcast is released on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show and the Lord Russell Baker YouTube channel. So thank you very much, John. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you John Boyle. Boyle, as he's known affectionately to his friends and teammates, of course. Fantastic. Really, real pleasure having you on the show. So do you mind us hanging on briefly, John, whilst I just wrap up and finish off?
Not at all. You carry on.
Thank you very much. The next episode on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show is the world's toughest row, Atlantic Ocean in 51 days, where my special guest will be Tim Harris, who is a former CEO, resilience expert, and extreme endurance rower. Tim Harris's, I should say, successful business career and background of overcoming adversity gives him a rare combination of the ability to discuss mental resilience and leadership, and regularly speaks on resilience training, bold goal setting, transition, teamwork, and most poignantly, suicide. Despite suffering severe depression, arthritis, and following shoulder reconstruction, Tim Harris completed the world's toughest row, a 3,000-mile unassisted crossing of the Atlantic. When he set this exceptional goal, more people had been into space and more than 10 times the number had climbed Everest than completed this challenge. So another great show to look forward to for everyone. And of course, exclusive on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside. So until then, it's au revoir from him and au revoir from me.